May 20, 2024, News Report 1. On May 19, Beijing time, Iran's official news agency reported that Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi tragically died in a plane crash. On the same day, Raisi had co-hosted a groundbreaking ceremony for a hydroelectric power station with Azerbaijani President Aliyev at the Iran-Azerbaijan border, before boarding a plane back to Germany. The convoy consisted of 3 helicopters, but only the one carrying Raisi crashed, while the other 2 landed safely. Iranian official media stated that due to heavy fog, the helicopter carrying Raisi experienced a hard landing. After the accident, Iran deployed a large number of personnel for rescue efforts, but the wreckage of the helicopter was not found for over a dozen hours. It wasn't until May 20, the following day, that Turkish drones detected the heat source from the helicopter, leading to the discovery of the wreckage, with the coordinates shared with the Iranian government. On May 20, Iranian media confirmed Raisi's death in the helicopter accident. Iranian officials stated that the helicopter completely burned upon crashing, resulting in the death of all passengers on board, including Iranian Foreign Minister Abdullahian. Raisi, 63, nicknamed the Butcher, gained infamy for inventing the notorious 5-minute trial and execution system during his tenure as a prosecutor in 1990, resulting in over 5,000 people being sentenced to death. Raisi was elected president of Iran in 2021, and during his tenure, he tightened so-called moral laws, leading to the arrest of women and children for not wearing headscarves. In 2022, the death of Iranian girl Amini for improperly wearing a headscarf led to nationwide protests, with the United Nations stating that 551 demonstrators were killed by Iranian security forces, and over 20,000 people were arrested. Raisi's death was thus met with celebrations among the Iranian populace, with women dancing and fireworks being set off. The impact of Raisi and the Iranian foreign minister's deaths on Iran's domestic and foreign policies remains unclear, as the real power in Iran lies with Supreme Leader Khamenei. On May 22, Khamenei appointed Iran's first vice president Muqbel as acting president, who will consult with the legislative and judicial branches to elect a new president within 50 days. Meanwhile, Chinese President Xi Jinping expressed deep condolences for Raisi's death, stating that the Chinese people lost a good friend, and he personally lost a friend. Chinese media displayed profound sorrow over the incident. News Report 2. The website of the Central Commission for Discipline Inspection of the Communist Party of China reported on May 18 that Tang Renjian, Minister of Agriculture and Rural Affairs of China, is currently under investigation for serious disciplinary violations and violations of the law. Tang Renjian became the 9th State Council minister to be removed from office during Xi Jinping's 3rd term. Among the 26 State Council ministers in total, this means that about 1/3 of the members have been replaced, despite Xi Jinping's 3rd term only beginning just over a year ago. Tang Renjian's last public appearance was on May 15 when he was conducting research in Shaanxi province and delivering a speech at the National Rural Talent Work Conference. Tang Renjian, 61, from Chongqing, graduated from Southwestern University of Finance and Economics. In 1998, he was selected to work in the Central Finance and Economics Leading Group, and in 2005, he served as the Deputy Director of the Central Finance Office, with Liu He as the director at the time. In 2013, he became the head of the State Council Leading Group Office for Poverty Alleviation and Development and the deputy head of the Leading Group, and in 2017, he became the governor of Gansu Province. He was appointed Minister of Agriculture and Rural Affairs in December 2020. During his tenure as Minister of Agriculture and Rural Affairs, Tang Renjian implemented some significant policy measures, including the Rice Up the Mountain and returning farmland to forests and grasslands. The Rice Up the Mountain policy was questioned because terraced fields are prone to destruction during rainstorms, while returning farmland to forests and grasslands aimed to ensure food security by converting previously planted forests into farmland, but this policy was criticized for damaging China's afforestation achievements over the past 20 years. Since last year, several state council ministers have been removed from office successively. For example, in February last year, Minister of Justice Tang Yijuan was relieved of his duties and investigated by the Central Commission for Discipline Inspection in April this year. In July last year, Qin Gang was dismissed, and Ni Gang replaced Yi Gang as the governor of the People's Bank of China. In September last year, Minister of Finance Lu Kun was dismissed and replaced by Lian Fuan. In October last year, Li Shangfu was dismissed and replaced by Dong Jun. In October last year, Minister of Civil Affairs Tang Dongjie was transferred to become the governor of Shaanxi Province, and Lu Ziyuan succeeded him. In October last year, Minister of Culture and Tourism Hu Heping was dismissed and replaced by Sun Yeluan. Also in October last year, Minister of Science and Technology Wang Jigang was dismissed and replaced by Yin Yong. This series of ministerial personnel changes reflects Xi Jinping's high level of centralized power and frequent personnel adjustment strategies in governing the country. News Report 3. The sovereignty conflict between China and the Philippines is escalating, with new developments occurring every day. Xinhua News Agency reported on May 17 that China's Coast Guard Fleet 3502 was conducting vessel formation training near Huangyan Island. This number 3502 Coast Guard ship is very large, with a displacement of 5,500 tons, and was originally a warship. Photos from Xinhua show 9 Coast Guard ships sailing in formation at sea. Earlier on May 15, Xinhua also released photos showing China's Coast Guard Fleet 3502 conducting law enforcement activities near Huangyan Island, with only 5 Coast Guard ships at the time. Analysts point out that the increase from 5 to 9 Coast Guard ships indicates that China has begun to reinforce its presence near Huangyan Island in the South China Sea. On the other hand, Philippine President Marcos stated during a speech to Military Academy graduates on May 18 that the Philippines will vigorously defend its territory against invaders who do not respect Philippine sovereignty. In addition, Malaya, spokesman for the Philippine National Security Council, stated during a press conference on May 20 that China was demanded to open Huangyan Island for international supervision. Malaya pointed out that China has damaged the marine environment of Huangyan Island and may file a lawsuit. News Report 3. The sovereignty conflict between China and the Philippines is escalating, with new developments occurring daily. Xinhua News Agency reported on May 17 that the Chinese Coast Guard Fleet 3502 conducted vessel formation training near the Huangyan Island. This 3502 Coast Guard ship is very large, with a displacement of 5,500 tons, originally a military ship. Photos from Xinhua News Agency show that 9 Coast Guard ships were sailing in a fan formation at sea. Previously, on May 15, Xinhua News Agency also released photos showing the 3502 Coast Guard fleet conducting law enforcement activities near the Huangyan Island with only 5 ships. Analysts pointed out that the increase from 5 to 9 Chinese Coast Guard ships indicates that China has begun to increase its troops near the Huangyan Island in the South China Sea. On the other hand, Philippine President Marcos stated during a speech to graduating military academy students on May 18 that the Philippines would strongly defend its territory against invaders who do not respect Philippine sovereignty. In addition, Philippines National Security Council spokesman Malaya stated in a press conference on May 20 that they demand China open up the Huangyan Island for international supervision. Malaya pointed out that China has damaged the marine environment of Huangyan Island and stated that they may file a lawsuit. The Philippine military issued a statement on May 18 announcing the removal of Carlos as the commander of the Western Command of the Philippine military, replaced by Torres. Bloomberg reported on May 7 that a Chinese diplomat in the Philippines provided a phone record showing that Carlos agreed on January 3 this year to use a new method to supply Renai Reef during a conversation with officials from the Philippine embassy. However, the Philippine Department of Foreign Affairs has repeatedly stated that they have not reached any agreement with China regarding Renai Reef and emphasized that only the president has the authority to sign agreements on South China Sea affairs on behalf of the Philippines. Marcos stated in an interview with the media on the evening of May 18 that an investigation into the matter is underway. He said that it is too early to draw any conclusions before personally hearing the so-called content of the conversation. News Report 4. According to Kyodo News, Liu Jianchao, Minister of the International Department of the Communist Party of China, CPC, Central Committee, will visit Japan on May 27 to discuss issues such as the discharge of nuclear wastewater into the ocean and the import of Japanese aquatic products. Liu Jianchao will meet with various political parties in Japan. Sources revealed that China has inquired with the Secretary-General of the Liberal Democratic Party, Toshimitsu Motegi, the leader of the Komeito Party, Natsuo Yamaguchi, and the leader of the Constitutional Democratic Party, Kenji Ida, about the meeting. As for whether Liu will meet with Japanese Foreign Minister Taro Kono, it is still being coordinated. There has been a long-standing dialogue mechanism between the CPC and the Liberal Democratic Party and Komeito Party. However, no meetings have been held since 2018. In November last year, the two sides reached an agreement to restart this dialogue. In August last year, China stopped importing Japanese aquatic products due to the discharge of nuclear wastewater from Japanese nuclear power plants into the ocean. In May this year, China Customs cancelled the registration permits of Japanese aquatic companies, meaning that Japan can no longer export any marine products to China. This is Liu Jianchao's first visit to Japan since he became Minister of the International Department in 2022. Liu Jianchao has been considered a possible successor to Wang Yi as the next foreign minister, but he did not get this position during this year's two sessions. Therefore, it is still uncertain whether this visit can really restore Sino-Japanese relations. This work is very difficult because, according to polls, Japan is the second country with the highest negative sentiment towards China after Sweden. Polls in Japan show that the proportion of people with negative views towards China ranks second globally, second only to Sweden. News Report 5. The U.S. government plans to dispatch Chinese affairs officials to the U.S. Embassy in Japan in July. These officials will be tasked with collecting and analyzing the activities of the Chinese government in other countries. This is a position introduced by the U.S. government in the previous administration aimed at monitoring China's influence globally. Currently, the U.S. has dispatched 20 Chinese affairs officials to Thailand, Belgium, Italy, and Australia. Their duties include not only monitoring China's actions but also promoting the establishment of supply chains that are not dependent on China, especially in areas such as semiconductors and other critical materials. The Chinese Affairs Officials Program is under the jurisdiction of the State Department's Office of Chinese Affairs, established in December 2022 to coordinate and formulate policies towards China. By dispatching these officials to key countries like Japan, the U.S. government hopes to better address China's global influence and ensure its autonomy in strategic material supply. News Report 6. On May 20, the Chinese Ministry of Commerce announced the inclusion of 3 U.S. defense companies on the unreliable entity list. These companies are Boeing Defense, Space and Security, General Atomics Aeronautical Systems Incorporated, and General Dynamics Land Systems Incorporated. The Ministry of Commerce stated that this move was due to these companies' involvement in arms sales to Taiwan, which violated China's national security and sovereignty. Specific sanctions include a fine for Boeing Defense, Security, and Space Group equal to twice the amount of the arms sales to Taiwan, with a requirement to pay the fine in Beijing within 15 days. However, as these defense companies have no direct business dealings with China, the actual impact of these sanctions is considered limited by observers. In addition, the Chinese Ministry of Commerce announced an anti-dumping investigation into polyacetyl copolymer imports from the EU, the US, Japan, and Taiwan. Polyacetyl copolymer is a high-performance polymer that can replace metals such as copper, zinc, tin, and lead, and is widely used in automotive parts, electronic appliances, engineering machinery, and medical devices. The investigation began on May 19 and will be completed within 1 year, with a possible extension of 6 months if necessary. Taiwan's Ministry of Economic Affairs responded, stating that Taiwan exported 47,000 tons of polyacetyl copolymer to China last year, valued at $79 million. Analysts point out that the Ministry of Commerce's investigation and sanctions may ultimately have a certain impact on Chinese companies themselves, as these companies have a certain degree of dependence in related fields. News Report 7. The Wall Street Journal reports that U.S. officials have privately warned U.S. telecom companies that undersea cables may be damaged by Chinese ships. U.S. officials point out that China's state-owned China-Britain Submarine System Company, SBSS, frequently exhibits secretive wireless signals and signal disappearances. According to the Wall Street Journal's analysis of shipping data, SBSS ships' satellite signals periodically disappear for several days when operating in the coastal areas of Indonesia and Taiwan. Experts say that it is highly unusual for the positions of commercial ships to be untraceable, which may indicate that these ships are engaged in activities they do not want to be discovered. The U.S. government believes that China's target may be undersea cables, which could be damaged by China in the event of conflicts in Taiwan and other hotspots to disrupt the U.S.'s communication advantage. The China-Britain Submarine System Company was established in 1995, jointly invested and established by China Telecom and the UK's Global Marine Group, with China Telecom holding a 51% stake. The company is mainly engaged in the laying and maintenance of undersea cables. News Report 8. The implementation of a 4-shift, 5-day, 8-hour work system at a weapons factory in Jiangsu, China has sparked worker protests. According to a report by Horton Text Analysis, the Jiangsu weapons factory under BYD has implemented a new work system where workers are no longer allowed to work overtime, and the basic salary is only 2,490 yuan, with a maximum of 5,000 to 6,500 yuan per month including overtime pay. Workers are dissatisfied with this arrangement and have gathered to protest inside the factory, with some even lying on the ground. After police intervention, workers were required to adhere to the new work system. Some netizens have pointed out that as China's largest electric vehicle manufacturer, BYD's basic salary is surprisingly low, calling it a sweatshop. News Report 9. According to information released by the Chinese civil organization, People's Livelihood Watch, Jiang Shuiping, a citizen of Luoyang, Hunan, was taken away by the police on May 18. It is reported that on May 16, during Putin's visit to Beijing, Jiang Shuiping protested by holding up a sign with the slogan, "Putin, a peace-loving Chinese does not welcome war criminals. Are you coming to China for alms, Putin?" At 8:30 a.m. that day, Jiang Shuiping was taken away by the police from a hotel in Luoyang. News Report 10. A stabbing incident occurred at Mingda Elementary School in Wenfang Town, Guishi City, Jiangxi Province, resulting in 2 deaths and 10 injuries. Photos on Twitter show a similar incident also occurred at Jiang Shuiping's home, resulting in 2 deaths and 10 injuries. The photos show multiple students injured and lying on the ground, with blood everywhere. According to on-site reports, the incident happened at noon when the teachers were all having lunch. A woman drove to the school and first injured the teachers at the entrance, then entered the campus and attacked anyone she encountered. Twitter reports indicate that the attacker is the wife of a teacher at the school. After the incident, the police sealed off the school, and police cars and ambulances were constantly entering and leaving the school. Parents rushed to the school, many of whom were migrant workers wearing construction helmets. Guishi City Public Security Bureau issued a warning notice stating that the suspect has been arrested, and the reasons for the incident are under investigation.